Oh, the world sure feels noisy and a little unmoored. Same power structures and playbooks, different decade, but same outcomes. What? We need to change the game. But Women Advancing isn't about fixing women. We're busy reorienting leadership for the world we're living in and the one ahead. I'm your host, Kate Byrne. Each week, I talk with the women shaping what's next. Join us as we reset the compass on Women Advancing. Hey, everyone. It's your host, Kate Byrne with Women Advancing. So today we're going to be talking about systems, the ones that we don't see, and the cost of continuing to ignore them. But we're also going to be touching upon, frankly, storytelling and communicating issues that are really important, that can tackle problems that are so overwhelming that people are frozen into not taking a single step. And how can you translate them into a series of simple baby steps that will result in a huge forward moment. So my guest is Kathryn Soter, and she's the Executive Director of Good Future Design. Kathryn, I've known Kathryn for, I don't want to even say, 2 scores. But the thing I love about Kathryn is she has spent decades at the intersection of media, design, and sustainability. And she's really helping us rethink about how simple things beyond buildings, actually our very own homes, are being built, furnished, and ultimately discarded. One fun fact, holy guacamole, 12.2 million tons of furniture waste every year. That would easily furnish 8.1 million people. So just think about what we're tossing. This isn't a conversation, though, just about waste. It's really about leadership, translation, and the courage that women are doing, the invisible work of connecting creativity, cost, and as a result, having long-term impact. This is why, honestly, future depends on making the unseen impossible to ignore. Thanks to Kathryn, you won't after our conversation. Stay to the end for KB's takeaways. And as always, I look forward to hearing your feedback. Let's listen. Women Advancing listeners, you are in for a special little ray of sunshine because we are joined today by a favorite person of mine that I've known throughout my career. I have worn the career a lot heavier than she has, as we can see, but please join me in welcoming Kathryn Soter, who's the Executive Director of Good Future Design Alliance. Hey, Kathryn, welcome.
Great to see you, Kate. And I just have really good Zoom filters, so I don't agree with you on that aging thing. But
clearly, I've got to upgrade mine. Thank you. Well, listen, the reason I have deep respect for Kathryn because she's been a leader throughout media, legacy media, and she's also done some amazing pivots. And she's got a deep heart for sustainability and a passion for good design. And during our conversation together, we're going to talk a little bit about that and, how you transition, how when you make one shift, yes, sure, there's some things you give up, but there are so many other things you gain. And then we're going to hear some statistics that I think are going to blow your mind. So with that, I shall say to you, my dear, what did you actually lose? Let's start there, right? And talk a little bit about origin and courage. So when you decided, okay, the whole legacy media, it's still there, but barely media-ish, right? So when that whole world collapsed, what did you realize you were finally free to build? And how did you kind of get to that spot? Like, hey, oh my God, I can actually do what I want to do.
Well, it was obviously disappointing to see the legacy media world just, collapse. And so you asked, what did I lose from that? Well, number one was a big fat expense account and a company car. Okay, let's just start.
Yes, she did.
All the good old days, right? So
yep.
I also, lost in a sense, because now I'm working for myself at home, one assistant who is remote. I miss that sisterhood I had from working at a large office, mostly female office in San Francisco. But what I gained, though, was a chance to reinvent myself. And in a field that I had loved since I was young, interior design. And just maybe because of my background, I wasn't really shy about asking questions and getting to know people and poking around to get information. And before long, I now have a new set of colleagues and friends in just a new industry. So that gave me the courage to do that.
So I've got a question because actually, I'm just thinking about this. In one way, you sort of, I guess, traded in one identity and got to kind of shed whatever no longer fit anymore and got to really sort of customize this next one.
Mhm.
So I know sustainability is near and dear to your heart. Did you realize that, or was there a moment when you actually sat there and said, hey, you know what? I can take this personal passion and this is a responsibility that I can't ignore anymore, right? I've got to really raise the visibility because I do have a sophisticated background. I know how to tell a good story, which you do. I know where to go. I have people who can make room for me to tell that story. And all I keep thinking of you too, is being stuck in like California a few years back, well,
In a
7 or 8 years when it's burning, right?
Yeah. Right. Inferno. Yes, exactly. Up and down the West, pretty much. Well, I think there's always childhood influences too. My grandparents lived through the Depression and they never threw anything out. And I know as a kid, my cousin and I, every summer when I'd go visit grandma's, my cousin and I would just head down to her basement because there was just a treasure trove of things, right? But it did make me appreciate that in those days, people didn't throw things away. They fixed or repaired them. And my grandmother saved all kinds of thread and things like that. And then when I got into the interior design industry, I started working for manufacturers. And I learned from my clients who were interior designers just about the inefficiencies and processes that are just inherent and accepted in the industry. It's like too many small moving parts, too many people to mess it up along the way. And also on the manufacturing side, I saw an enormous amount of packaging waste that gets thrown out at scale. So it was really startling. I joined the Good Future Design Alliance, which was actually started by an interior designer and others of us in the industry, as a forum really for bringing awareness to the problem. And I eventually took over the organization in 2023.
And what does the Alliance exactly do? Because I think it's a great one that maybe people aren't as aware of, but they, to your point, should be.
Well, we're an environmental education organization, and we work with a cross discipline of design and build professionals on coming up with solutions to the waste problem. But we've really expanded the mission to educate more and more designers and builders on the role of toxicity in our environment from building materials and indoor air quality, reducing our reliance on natural resources through reuse, promoting circularity, if you will, and energy conservation, all those other good things. But we're really trying, our niche is two things. One is focusing on the residential design industry because commercial has bigger projects, they have consultants, they have more of the attention. Projects are bigger, flashier, if you will. But the residential side is broader and made up of, as I mentioned, lots of small projects. So it doesn't get really nearly as much of attention. And so people in that industry, that sector, are largely undereducated and underserved, I think, through resources. But what we try to do is educate through conversations and bringing people from cross disciplines together because we tend to talk to the same type of people all the time. Interior designers talk to interior designers, right?
Yeah.
And you really learn and can really move change if you are listening to the other people on a project. And that's what we really try to do.
That's what it seems to me is a little cross pollination, but also just looking at like, hey, that kind of issue in one of those worlds is akin to something over here. And I could try that, or I could try a version of that. So, and the thing about the residential piece is, so everyone shows up at work and you already know, but man, you've already been impacted by God knows what else that's taking place within your home. I mean, I've certainly have experienced that here in Charlottesville, in Virginia. Be it with materials with which, building materials, pipe materials, you name it. And not even that long ago, only 20 years ago. We're not talking 1900, old farmhouse by any means of the imagination. So, what I wanted you to share was, and we tipped a little bit upon it, there's, just shocking statistics, right, about furniture waste and more would you mind just let's stop everybody cold, shall we? And share, spill a little tea on that front if you don't mind.
Well, sure. Most people are not aware of the environmental impact in the residential world. It's pretty much stayed invisible because if you think about it, it's spread across millions of ordinary, unremarkable buildings, right? One kitchen
Yes.
renovation, one little farmhouse doesn't really seem like much, especially when you compare it to a giant skyscraper going
Yep.
up or a big airport, right?
Yep.
But at a national scale combined, it's really enormous. So, for example, single family homes and multifamily housing make up about 2/3 of the US building square footage, while commercial, any guess?
Oh my God.
25%. So that's what people don't realize is that despite the fact that commercial projects are larger and flashier and are renovated many more times over, yes, they have an enormous environmental impact, right, as a category, but it's small compared to the residential side. So residential construction still outspends commercial roughly by 2 to 1. So as it relates to the environment and the impact, the problem is that the data is a little murky because
Mm,
residential waste and emissions are often bundled together with commercial.
yeah.
But the evidence suggests that the residential sector is a much bigger driver of waste and pollution than people assume. And so
So,
what happens when we ignore it is that the scale's hidden, policy gaps persist, and have big everyday opportunities for change that just sort of slip right by us.
because, one of the things, and we talked a little bit about this, is how, numbers alone usually don't move us towards anything or, get us upset. What do you think this one actually has really slapped people with a huge bucket of cold water? Is it because, oh my God, all of us have probably done something with furniture waste?
Furniture waste. Well, okay. So it's 12.2 million tons of furniture waste that we have dump every year, but it should stop people cold, but it
Yeah.
didn't until we turn that statistic into something more meaningful and something that people could really relate to. So when we put it this way, just in the US each year, we throw enough furniture away to furnish one-bedroom apartments for 8.8 million people.
Whoa.
That, yes, exactly. That's that's usually what people do is gasp. So put that way, people are stopped and thinking, okay, what are the habits that I am, doing that will contribute to that? So we also need, however, to provide an off ramp for this. It's not enough to just tell people what the problems are. We have to allow or bring something to them that allows them to participate in changing behavior. So think about it. The good comparison is 40 years ago, we didn't really recycle much at all. And it wasn't really until cities put recycling bins out in front of the curb, right? And then it became a practice because it was there for us. So we have to do more things like that. That exists on the commercial side, the large commercial side, not even
Right.
so much on the even small commercial side, but the infrastructure still and the incentives still need to be established for the residential side.
And catch up. And I think, that's one of the things too we've also talked about is how all this is communicated, right? It's not just a sustainability problem, but it's communication. So people don't, it doesn't connect. Whereas, hello, that you paint a picture like that. I mean, it literally makes you, frankly, a little bit ill. So where do the systems that help that storytelling happen, right? That communication, where do they break down? Is it the language? Is it the incentives? Is it the collaborations? Is it not my problem, it's your problem? Because I know
Can I say
sustainability,
all of the above?
and we have D.
Yeah.
But yeah, because
Yeah.
this is the thing, sustainability, it's been spoken about for so many decades, and it's really dire. I mean, we touch it every day, but I don't know. I think it's because it isn't all completely black and dire. People just don't take it seriously, I suppose.
Yeah, well, for starters, as I mentioned before, we really lack a culture of collaboration in the design industry. Here's how it goes. We like to hand things off, right? We're done,
Yeah.
we move on, we got another project, we move fast, time's money, right? And But a third of construction waste comes from decisions that are made at the design phase before a hammer is swung. And it
Whoa.
stands to reasons that earlier collaboration, of course, would save time and money and a lot of dumpsters. So, to make matters worse, we actually reward this behavior. It's costly to the client, but the contractors and the suppliers get paid either way, right?
Right.
Sometimes double. So we're at kind of cross purposes with each other. We're moving fast, time is money, but we're also having to redo things. And there's also probably not enough incentives to do things right. There certainly is much more pressure and ordinances and compliance and ESG goals on the commercial side, but those just largely don't matter to the residential community. But you can get significant write-offs by donating furniture and even building materials if you deconstruct your home. That's a new concept in residential. It's not inexpensive because it does slow the project down, but if you plan for it at the beginning, then it fits into your timeline, right?
Right.
And reusing materials can also even save you money too. You can either donate them, resell them, or maybe even use them on your project. But again, I think the problem is really one of mindset and lack of planning for this.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just continuing with the old system, the old
Yeah,
way,
make, waste, I'm done, next.
Yeah. So quick question. Are you, and you may not have seen this, but I'm just curious, multiple different generations. I mean, as we're sitting here saying you can sell things, all I think about is Facebook Marketplace, right? And all the DIY stuff, right? And so I'm sitting there wondering if there is any kind of data or a marked difference or practice from younger generations versus older generations versus, like, I'm wondering, for instance, if the silent generation
Oh,
and
yeah.
the Gen Zs are kind of maybe either similar or, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, most of the silent generation is largely extinct now.
I was going to say silent and dead from their coffins. Sorry, not to be shallow humor.
But honestly, they are not as sustainable as you think they might be because think about it, post-war, right, was the boom days.
Yep.
We had technology, we had conveniences, we had, dishwashers were being invented, washing machines, packaged goods, all that stuff. So that was new and fun. Nobody really thought about the impacts of waste back then. Right. I think during the Depression for their parents or when they were children, it was a necessity. But my father used to say, he grew up in a very small town. He said, we never lacked for food, growing up in the Depression. We grew our own. Right? We fished in the river. We had a community with us, so we survived. It was harder, obviously, in big cities where none of that was necessarily available. And you're right. I have a chart in one of my presentations that shows all the generations, and there's some data that shows what is their interest in sustainability. How important is it to them? And the trajectory from old to young generations is a nice arrow up. So about 75 to 85% of the latest generation, where are we? Alpha, beta?
Yes, alpha.
I don't know where we are now.
I know.
Gen Zers for sure are highly interested in sustainability. And so they look at it as a construct to live by. Where even baby boomers, it's less than half of baby boomers that really, put much into that or care.
Yeah. Yeah.
They tend to write big checks, but they don't necessarily practice what they preach or what they support.
Exactly. Well, I know another thing that's important to you has this, or one of the myths that's out there too, is that, well, we don't want to be too sustainable because that stifles creativity. Right. So what if constraints unlocked that, abundance never did?
Yeah, I think actually that when you have constraints, it actually activates creativity. Because look, if money's no object and you have sort of a blank check or open credit card, anybody can go shopping and buy that Instagram look in an instant, right? So that doesn't take much creativity. You're just copying something. But you have constraints like a budget or an existing building or site issues or your own efficiency goals or waste standards or health concerns. It takes a lot more time and thinking, and it can force you to think harder
Right.
and really be more clever. And I think when you enter a field like interior design or architecture, you're largely very creative people anyway. So, spend the time. I think it's just much more fun in the long run for people. And really interesting things can come out of it too. Sometimes when you're not, really thinking about it at the beginning. That's where I also think collaboration comes in, because
Yeah.
if you do have challenges with a project, work with the other team members. I don't think clients promote that enough because they don't understand. They think of it as just a cost. Well, if I get my architect, designer, contractor, even vendors in early on, I'm paying for all those people's time, but you're actually really building a brain trust to
Right.
help problem solve. And you can really be surprised at how a contractor or an engineer might have a great design decision to help you. So
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of the opposite of what really happens.
Well, and when you think about it, we've seen it in other industries. Like I sit there and I think of mobile banking. A lot of that took place in places where there aren't banks, right? So,
Right.
the African continent was one of the huge, huge
Mhm.
forefront and all sorts of things. So I hadn't thought of that point that way before, but that's a really good one. So speaking of collaboration and women, so often we tend to be, not that males are not collaborative, they are as well, but so often we're the ones who end up doing all of that sort of integrative work that holds systems together without, oh God, ever getting authority recognition. We get all the responsibility, right? And all the, and
None
none
of
of
the
the
credit.
jazz hands, none of the credit. How does that play out in the design and construction world? Because I know there are more women are starting to get more into the construction world because they're starting to inherit family businesses and such. But speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, well, it won't surprise you that certain sectors are male dominated and certain sectors are female dominated. There is more cross pollination. There's more female engineers now, and there are more female people in construction.
Mhm.
And conversely, there's more males in interior design. All of that's great. It takes all kinds to make an industry flourish. Women are often doing that connective tissue work that you described. It's essential, but it doesn't, as we just talked about, get noticed. But part of advancing women, I think, is finally naming that as a leadership style, because that's how systems, as we've been talking about, actually change. And I think where it's the most noticeable and effective is when women run their own businesses or
Mm.
are in leadership roles, not just by title. Often, I think if you're in a secondary role in a company, you're doing work, but maybe not being recognized
As
as a
such.
leader. Or and so I think when you have your chance to run your own business, you often can show that it can be done differently.
Well, and also your IP stays your IP. It
Oh,
isn't.
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that always used to drive me a little bit crazy, coming up with, terrific ideas and then hearing everybody under the sun that became that. You want to help the company, but it's like, well, wait a second. No, pipe down, pipe down. So,
People stealing your ideas, and you just kind of have to bite your tongue, I guess. That we're
yes.
used to that.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, all right. So going back to a little bit of more sort of generational archaeology, something you have said a few different times was, you talk about borrowing the planet, right, from our children.
Hmm. Hmm.
How does that long view thinking across generations, how's that change how we define success today? We should be harder on ourselves, or maybe not harder, but perhaps more vigilant. What do you think?
Well, I don't think harder on ourselves is going to work.
No, I know. That's me. I'll put the flog down. It's down. It's down.
What I do like is, as we talked earlier about this next generation, they really do care deeply, and
Mhm.
they're very well aware of sustainability. They just need to ask their bosses for permission, guidance certainly, but permission to pursue the way they want to do business differently, because they're not really satisfied with this. Oh, it's not done that way. It's never been done that way. And they're not likely to work for bosses who know this stuff either. That's just
Right.
not the way the industry rolls. It's we're working hard out of it. Those of us that are in the industry are working hard to push these, concepts and educate people. But the next generation gets it faster, and that gives me hope. And So I do think there's things that we can impart and hopefully encourage and allow that younger generation to pursue this and not be deterred by forces that are going against it, which may be the case.
Yeah, I know. Because, it's one of those things that I've never really understood why some of this is just so, it just makes sense. And yet it's not been embraced. And I
Hmm.
think part of it is too, is that we as consumers also are going to have to make some sacrifices or trade offs. I wouldn't even say that. And so I think we also have a few fingers pointing back at ourselves saying, okay, if we're really going to make a big change, that means everybody has to make a big change, which means I'm going to have to shift some of my own expectations. Um,
Hmm.
so, um, I know we've talked a little bit, or I've heard you mention, aiming for like 20% doom and gloom, 80% solutions. So how do you decide, just in terms of, communicating, because this is something that all of us contend with. How do you decide when people are ready to hear hard truths and when they need hope? Because that can be a tricky one.
Well, I think the time for the hard truths is now. Similar to how the dangers of pesticides were revealed decades ago with Rachel Carson's seminal book, Silent Spring. Now
Hmm.
it's chemicals that linger in our environment and in our bodies. It's plastic that degrades but never really decomposes. So the hope is that we can convince people that small choices that they make really do add up. If we all start doing a little bit, it's a force multiplier.
Yeah,
It's like the wave at a stadium. One person stands up and then another person does.
that's
Before
exactly
long, the whole stadium is moving,
domino
right?
effect.
It does work that way. We just have to, when we see our neighbor doing something, let's try it. I really want people, to think that they don't have to be perfect um, to take a step towards this philosophy. Honestly, it's when you think of, oh, I can't do it because I don't know how and I won't do it right, that's really a deterrent. So I think people don't have to get it right from day one. They just have to start, do something. And our goal really is to reward progress and not perfection. See, most certification standards are so high and costly, and they unintentionally leave out a large number of designers and builders who collectively could make a real difference. So I guess I love a good analogy, Kate. So I think of it as swim lessons. Okay. You wouldn't expect your 4-year-old to be able to win the breaststroke in week one. You
Right. Or the butterfly.
or the butterfly, right? You just want them to get into the water. And
Right.
that's what we want. We just want you to get into the water. We'll be there with the floaties and the fins and whatever you need at whatever level you're coming into this for. And if you want to learn to swim with us, confidently, we will be there and we will have done our job. You do not have to train for the Olympics.
What out the gate? How perfectly timed, given that they will be coming to
Yes.
us shortly. Is that some of the thinking that went to how you all developed you did a 30-day, right? 30-day,
Yeah.
30K
Mhm.
design challenge where you kind of
Mhm.
did this good, better, best framework. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that because it sounds like it was a good way for people to literally continuing put the toe in the water.
Well, we pilot tested it with the 30K. We pilot tested it with a few designers we've developed what we call the low impact design handbook, and through that we got feedback from designers on having constraints, right? Going right back to that, having
Yep.
constraints. and working within those constraints. And we gave them that sort of arbitrary 30-day work, timeline, but that's really working days, and
Yeah.
a budget of 30K. And the feedback was great, and people got into it. We'd love to roll that out nationally with, assuming we can get some national sponsors, because it is a nice way, a fun way, sort of a low bar way to just sort of test the waters. But the best part that came out of it really was the guidebook. So
Yeah.
we now expanded it, and we are just finishing soliciting projects from our membership to show us examples of each one of the three pillars, which is low waste, low carbon, and low toxin. So we're just going to have photos now in it. So we're creating basically a magazine, if you will. And I'm
Oh,
really excited about it. We need a couple months to get it laid out and finished, but it'll be available to our membership. But that's really, I look at it as a primer, a
yeah.
way to introduce these concepts in a pretty low bar way. And
Mhm.
I'm not really talking about dumbing things down. I'm just trying to make them more approachable and just,
Right.
well, like I
Accessible.
said, right, exactly. Like just take a step with us. There's no judgment. Like I said, we reward for progress, not perfection. And
Right.
I think that that's the beauty and the danger of the environmental movement is we tend to go to the ideals. And like I said, if residential wasn't such a huge amount of the industry, okay, that might be fine, but and you do have to have ideals to shoot for, but it really leaves out just too many people. So we're just trying to take a different tack and say, let's just lower the bar of entry, not lower the standards, if you will.
Yeah. And I think also it's just translating it into this is a simple thing.
Hmm.
Doing this that you may already do, or you really could do, or making this super easy, this simple choice, that's a thing. I mean, that rolled out over a country, over the nation, will make a difference. So
Yeah.
just do that one little thing.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier, and I don't think I really answered it right. It's like this sort of generational thing,
Yeah,
and why that's important. I want to come back to that. I think what that means is really redefining what success is.
exactly. Yes.
So now it's what did we build to leave behind a legacy, right?
Yep.
But what we want them to say is, what did we leave behind? So if you're thinking legacy, success isn't really just about the beautiful project to leave to future generations. You have to think about the durability, the responsibility, and have few regrets for your decisions. So it's asking, did we build something that will last? Can it be repaired? Could it be adapted into something else? And does it harm people or the planet along the way when they inherit it, if you will? So if we can say yes, not to the last one, I should have
Yes,
rephrased that. It
exactly.
doesn't harm the people or planet. If we can say yes to those questions and it's still beautiful, then something that reflects the time, the culture, that place, then to me, that's real success, doing all of those things.
Well, yeah, and the sooner we do it, the better, which is amazing. And I'm thinking, I'm guessing that challenges like the one you've just done, does
Mhm.
that draw out like this whole next generation of designers? And if
Yeah,
so,
for
you're
sure.
looking at what gives you hope? And what do they need from, well, you said from leaders, you got to give them permission to do what
Permission.
they
Yeah.
know.
I do. I honestly find the most rewarding conversations I have are with students.
Yeah.
And if I could just talk to students all day, they're so eager to learn. They want to do something different. I have one interior design school that invites me back every semester to do a little 1 hour Q&A with their students, and I give them the background, and I'm not shy about sharing those scary facts, and they pay attention, but you could just see that by the questions they ask that they really, really do care. And I think they do want to make a difference. What I worry about is that there's not enough good mentors yet.
Ah,
They may have to become those for the generation after them. So it's organizations like ours and others that are providing good resources and guidance and lots of research and good data and also resources that they can choose from that I think will help them make better decisions and just sort of chart that path. There are some younger members that we have that are in that younger generation that want to work on their own. It's very difficult to get started on your own when you're young, right?
Yep.
And I applaud those that do. And sometimes they end up going back to work for somebody else, and that's okay too. You need practical business experience as well. But I really hope that they don't get pummeled down
Well, yes, like
we were
whack-a-mole.
so we were so used to in the advertising business, right? Just
Yes.
whack, stop talking, do your
Yes,
job.
exactly.
And I just hope there's a voice for those younger designers and architects and builders too, to try to do things a different way. The truth is, it's happening. It's just not being recognized by enough people. I can give you plenty of examples of great furniture manufacturers that design with circularity in mind, with no toxins and with a whole, like eco packaging or take back packaging or compostable. There are people doing this, and I applaud them. I just try to tell people don't give up, keep trying, start to support these companies, these
Right.
designers, these industrial designers, and then we start to grow the industry.
Well, right. And the beauty of this too is it's essentially a brand halo effect. It's a part of your
Mhm.
brand as a person, as a consumer, as a parent, um, as a community member.
Yeah.
And we all know how everything travels fast. So I think that's a great idea. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I include the link if I
Hmm.
can, if that's appropriate
Yes, absolutely.
for the
Sure.
guidebook for sure. And even if there's some of these companies, I'd love to drop that in and or into the blog because the more we can get people really aware of all of this, the better.
Yeah, if you go to the goodfuturedesign.org, you'll see
Yep.
our website. There is a membership fee to get some of our
Yep.
resources, but it's not very
Perfect.
big. You can also just email me at Kathryn@goodfuturedesign.org, and I'd be happy to talk to any of your listeners.
Awesome. Which would be huge. Okay, last one, lady. You and I go way back, back, back. So
Mhm.
knowing what you know now, and I was just thinking one thing that I had, overstepped there, or didn't overstep, but I skirted around was Catherine. Everybody went back. You went to interior design school, yeah?
Oh, yeah, I did. I studied it part-time, like kind of a hybrid learning experience, because
You
I
were
don't know.
raising kids.
I don't have to tell you that advertising is not for the faint of heart and is pretty rough on people over 40. But I'd always liked it as a kid. And so I found this hybrid learning opportunity and started to do that nights, weekends stuff. And it was going, I thought, fine until my 9-year old son said, Mom, you spent a lot of time at your drawing board.
Oh,
And so that was a little painful to hear, but I understood. I did finish my studies, but I did postpone
yeah,
the career move for another 15 years, I will say. So,
yeah.
but
But it was
finally did get
beautiful.
there.
But it was beautiful foreshadowing for you. And that, I
Yeah.
mean, it is frustrating, but still, I want to commend you on that because no part of any of that was easy. So the fact that you did it and you did that
Yeah.
for yourself, which is also really great and so needed when you do have this job with delightful coworkers and a situation, and you have kids and everything else that comes with that entire
Balancing it
package.
all. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
I think all people, especially again, at a certain age, I feel like I'm in I know this sounds weird, the sunset of my career, but really trying to still do something and follow my passion. So, or at least try to make a difference. These are
right.
sort of things we all come out of college with an ideal, right? I'd like to make a difference somehow. And then you get sidelined by life, right? Got to earn a
Yes.
living. You got to pay the bills. You have kids. You have to take care of them. So all of
Yeah.
those things sort of sometimes derail you from some things that are sort of deeper yearnings inside of you.
But stay the course because there may come a window. And when the window does, the opportunity knocks, jump in there. Well, so
Yeah.
knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Honestly, I'd tell my younger self to stop waiting for permission.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the perfect experience or the perfect education or even the perfect title to start doing meaningful work. Just jump in if it really toots your horn.
Yeah.
And also, I'd say that your voice matters more than you think, and you don't need to soften it to make other people comfortable. I'm
Mhm.
still getting used to that, and I would say I needed to practice earlier. And maybe worry a little less about being impressive or perfect at something. Just care a little bit more about being useful, and the rest will follow.
There you go. Oh, Katie Soter. All right. Well,
I missed working with you. I don't think people know how far we go
no,
back.
we started way back
Woo.
before there was electricity. No, actually, really,
Big
we're talking
shoulder pads,
big shoulder pads. In fact, I
bow
wore this
ties.
jacket that has some pads. But I was, oh my God, when I look back. So yeah, those mid 80s, they were a fun
Yeah, they
time.
were. Yep.
And we haven't aged a bit,
Oh,
everyone.
not
It's
at all. Thank
lovely.
God for Zoom filters, like I started out saying.
Oh my gosh. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Uh, you never disappoint. Just so
Oh, thank
smart.
you.
Always have been, continue to be, and also just really doing great work, doing
Thank
important
you.
work too, um, and doing it with grace. So thank
Thanks.
you for everything you're doing.
Well, and I really appreciate the forum, and I love the title of your podcast, Women Advancing, because we do know that women need to support each other. It wasn't always the case back in
Yeah.
our early career where it was clawing your way to the top. But we really do owe it to each other to
Yep.
support each other. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
My pleasure. All right. Well, until our paths cross again, thank you.
You got it.
Well, did I tell you or did I tell you? Kathryn is honestly probably one of the most, and I don't mean to belittle this, but she's extraordinarily capable, competent, just, you can always count on her for doing something really well, concisely, and has a gift for explaining how easy it is to take something on. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. KB takeaways. I loved what she said with regards to stop waiting for permission. um, just go for it. Take it, especially when you have confidence in yourself. Your voice matters more than you think and more than you know. You're stronger, more strong than you think. And don't soften your voice just so others feel comfortable. That's what I'm still working on, and it doesn't help anybody because it just keeps everything kind of like. "Bleh." And lastly, in these crazy days, with something like sustainability, and really for so many things, it can be so easy to get overwhelmed with the size of the many mountains that we're facing with regards to different systems that are breaking down. So, with that in mind, one step in foot of the other. Go for progress, not perfection, because not trying at all, it's not really an option. I mean, it is, but the outcome, not so good. So, with that, thank you so much for listening in. I really appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Let me know what else you'd like to hear. And I look forward to continuing the conversation next time. Thanks for listening. May this episode inspire you to move forward. Be sure to go to iTunes, Spotify, katebyrne.co, that's KATEBYRNE.co, or wherever you listen to your podcasts and listen to even more episodes. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. And be sure to meet them on the next Women Advancing. Till next time.